What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, coming to you today once again from the Vegas studio on Facebook. If you guys want to check them out, give them a like. Maybe you're trying to do something creative. Maybe you can work with them. Who knows? Not everybody's going to be me. Not everybody's going to have the connections I have, but maybe you guys can make something work. I don't know what your life works like. I'm not going to pretend I know what your life works like. I know how my life works, and that's all I know. Some people are mad at me right now on Facebook because I said that I think that Democrats may be wearing their mask over their eyes instead of their mouths. And then I said, never mind, P.S. Michelle Obama is not to be trusted. Some people were mad because I said Michelle Obama was not to be trusted. I don't think Michelle Obama is to be trusted. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not going to come at you guys with the, Michelle Obama is a man. I don't think Michelle Obama is a man. I didn't have a problem with Michelle Obama when she showed her arms, which apparently made some kind of scandal back when she was first lady. Didn't have a problem with that. I voted for Barack Obama twice. If you guys want to know my history on that, it's not like I've forever been a Republican. I'm not a Republican now. I just vote Republican because I can deal with their discrimination better than I can deal with the discrimination on the left. The reason I say that you shouldn't trust Michelle Obama is because her entire speech for the convention was basically telling people, don't ask any questions, just vote Biden. Like, that's basically what she was saying. She was talking about what a great man he's been and throughout his entire life. Let's not talk about the 1994 crime bill. For some reason, we never talk about that when it comes to the left. The left never wants to address the 1994 crime bill, which put a lot of black men in prison for their entire lives, ruined their entire families.
You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all.
And some people could say, yeah, some of these offenses now they could be released for. Maybe we should work on that. Do I think we should work on that? Yes, I do. Because if we have people that are in jail for having or selling marijuana, maybe on a 3 strikes type thing, that are now in prison for the rest of their lives. And you could say we can release them, but if you've ever met somebody that's been released from prison, that's not necessarily the easiest transition. Plus, you're dealing with people that have been in prison for 10 or 20 years now. They're not just going to reacclimate. They're not going to be able to just step back into a job. Things don't work that way. So, and then you're also going to have to deal with the fact that there's lawyers that are chomping at the bit to file lawsuits because these people have been, at this point, wrongfully imprisoned, or that's what they're going to argue, and that's going to turn into a problem, and that's going to cost a lot of money for our government. So we can't address that, though. We can't talk about it. We're not supposed to even mention it. Michelle Obama specifically said,
"This is not the time to withhold our votes in protest."
But if the party isn't giving you what you want, then why should you go for the party? Like, when she says stuff like that, I know she's talking specifically to like Charlemagne the God and P. Diddy, because they had this thing where they're like, we want to get what we want. The Democratic Party needs to know that they are not just promised the black vote, which I may not agree with everything that Charlemagne and Diddy are going for. I haven't looked at exactly what it is they want, but I may not agree with all of it, but I still think that's a smart way to give up your vote, or the smart way to use your influence. If the DNC wants to use your influence to make sure that they get the president in there that they want, shouldn't you be able to say, as an influential person, well, this is what you need to do for my people in order for me to feel comfortable giving you that endorsement? I know I would feel that way. If I had enough influence and somebody was asking me to use my vote to make people vote the way that they wanted me to make them vote, I would be like, okay, but this is what my people need. This is what the people that I represent are actually looking to get out of the party. Like, for me, what Michelle Obama is asking is the equivalent of somebody handing you a contract and saying, just sign it. Don't read it, just sign it. Which, if you've ever looked at one of the contracts that come with doing almost anything in show business, they usually last into perpetuity, so that means forever. And they usually have stipulations where they make a certain amount of money off you for a certain amount of time. Some people will make that a ridiculous amount of time that doesn't make any sense. Like, I remember one time I got asked to do the Vans Warped Tour. It was the first time the Vans Warped Tour ever was having a comedy tent. And I got asked to do it. And I was being paid, well, gonna be paid some ridiculously low amount of money for a long amount of time. It was like $1,800, I think, for a full 3 months. Now, the guy that handed me the contract, the guy that I was dealing with, Johnny was his name. Maybe I'll bleep out his name. Maybe I won't. This is a true story. So I don't know why I would have to bleep his name out. We're friends now again, but we got in a huge thing because he gave me a contract and he was like, here's a contract, just sign it when you get a chance. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go home and look it over and then I'll bring it back to you signed. And he was like, bro, just sign the contract. And I was like, why would I do that? And that was when I was much newer to doing stand-up. But I still knew that I shouldn't sign a contract without at least looking at it. And we've already discussed, I'm not the best reader in the world. So of course I'm gonna have to go home and do that and probably read it a couple of times, which, you know, I mean, like, when I looked at the contract, it was like a first grader could tell. Well, maybe not a first grader. I don't know what age these kids start reading at. But anyway, anybody that could do any basic reading could tell that this contract wasn't in my best interest. I was being paid $1,800 for 3 months. I was going to be on the road the entire 3 months. I was also not guaranteed to do stand-up during that time. There might be a chance that they might not have a tent for us. That was something that was specified in the contract. If they didn't have a tent for us, then we would be in charge of doing stuff like building and breaking down tents. So it's like now I'm doing manual labor. That doesn't sound like something I really want to do. I mean, I'm Mexican, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I just want to do manual labor. It's not the love of my life. It's not the blood that runs in my veins. But this was part of the contract. The contract also said for, I believe it was 3 years after the Warped Tour wrapped, I would still have to give this guy, Johnny, 20% of anything that I did, be it TV, movie, book deal, anything that came within those 3 years, I would have to pay him 20% for. And that was including things that had nothing to do with the Warped Tour, things that didn't come from the Warped Tour, things that didn't come from my association with this particular person. But I was supposed to sign this contract without looking at it. And to me, that's the same thing that the Democratic Party is doing right now to its people. It's saying, like, just vote for Joe Biden. It doesn't matter what's important to you specifically. It's just important that we get Donald Trump out of office, which to me is a terrible way of doing things. I am a person that does believe in the law of attraction, and I believe that the things that you concentrate on become bigger. And people constantly concentrate on Donald Trump, which only makes him bigger. Like, every time you share something from Donald Trump, even though you're trying to say, I hate this guy so much, check this out, you're promoting him. You're taking the chance of some people looking at that same clip that you found so terrible and being like, hey, this actually makes a little bit of sense to me, which is how I became a Donald Trump voter in the first place. Like, you know, he would say inflammatory things, which is his point. He says inflammatory things to get your attention. So then he gets your attention, and then you share it with the rest of the world, and then people like me are like, okay, yeah, that does sound kind of bad, but let me see what the full thought is. Like, I saw a lady post last night about Trump where she was like, Trump has already said that all Latino immigrants are bad. Trump has not said all Latino immigrants are bad. There's actually a clip where Donald Trump says,
I love the Mexican people. I love their spirit. Many of them work for me right now. I respect Mexico. But their leaders and their negotiators are too smart for our leaders and our negotiators.
so when you're giving misinformation because you haven't read the full clip, you can go ahead and do that, but there's also going to be a certain amount of people that are going to be like, did Donald Trump ever say that? And they're going to find the same thing that I found, which I ended up finding years ago. 2015, 2016 was when I ended up reading all this stuff and finding it out. So, in my opinion, Michelle Obama is not a good person right now for giving that bad advice to people. If you want another example of where I've been in this situation, it was one time when I was going to the Blessed Sacrament Church in Hollywood. That was my regular church. I know you guys probably don't think of me as a type that goes to church. I know most of you probably think I'm a heathen. You might not be too far off the mark. But every once in a while, after fucking a bunch of dudes, smoking a bunch of weed, and doing I shouldn't be doing, I want to go pray. I don't confess, though. I don't believe in confession because I'm not going to confess my sins to a person that has probably done worse things than I've done, and I mean a priest. And if you know anything about priests, I'm probably not very wrong. But One time I was at the Blessed Sacrament Church. I would go every week, like I said, and they took the time that was dedicated to the homily, or usually dedicated to the homily, which is the word, the sermon. That's the part that I go for most, is because I usually will listen to the priest give the homily, and then I'm like, okay, what lesson can I take into the next week with me? I usually forget it by the time I went home, but it's good to get the lesson, you know, it's in there subconsciously at least. Well, this particular week, they didn't have a homily. Instead, they had a speaker come on, and she was trying to promote this thing called Together in Mission, which is where they try to raise extra money for the less fortunate parishes. So I had to listen to this whole speech about giving money and how you're supposed to give money, and there was a translator because there's a lot of people that don't speak Spanish, and the church I went to was not a particularly nice church. I mean, like, it was a nice church. It was a beautiful church, technically. It's Blessed Sacrament on Sunset. If you guys have ever seen that church, it's really beautiful to look at. But the people that go there, the parishioners, don't have the most money. There's a lot of poor people. There's a lot of people that are, even homeless people will go to this church. I mean, this is just what it is. And like I said, I would go there every week, so I knew kind of what the income was of a lot of the people there, because you see the way they're dressed. Not to be superficial, but I pay attention to that stuff. Trust me, these people didn't have a lot of money. So with the interpreter, this woman ends up telling people, after telling us how to fill out a credit card slip, which I know how to fill out a credit card slip, I don't need that help, but apparently some of these goons do. But she tells them, this is a quote, "You've heard the expression, give to the point that it hurts. I want you to give past that point. God will take care of you. God will provide for you." End quote. To me, that is the most evil advice you can give a person. To tell them to go ahead and spend more money than they should possibly spend because God will take care of them. So run up your credit card, giving your money to the Catholic Church, which the Catholic Church already has plenty of money. If you don't know anything about the Catholic Church, they're as bad as Scientology, probably even worse. They've got plenty of money. So you're telling these people that God will take care of them like this is good advice, and I'm saying I think this is evil. So I went ahead and complained to the rectory, let them know I had a problem with it. Then they said that the priest would end up calling me, you know, and then I ended up talking to the priest, Father Mandala, and I told him that I didn't appreciate that, and I didn't think that was smart to give bad advice to poor people like that, and I thought it was evil. He got mad at me, and he told me that maybe being Catholic wasn't for me. This is something that he said. And I told him that I think he needs to remember that he's a regular man and needs to watch how he talks to people. And then we got into it a little bit more, and I don't think he was really ready to hear about himself that way. And then I decided that I would no longer go to that church. So they lost me as a parishioner. So anyway, my point is, don't, no matter what party you're in, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and if a Republican says some stupid shit like this, I'm going to do another one of these on how I think they're the ones giving bad advice now, because I personally have no real loyalty to any particular party. I like Donald Trump because he's a troll. I think it's fun. I think America needs more of that. All the shit that people have said that is going to happen has not happened. People have said Donald Trump is like Hitler. You're giving way too much credit to Donald Trump, and you're hurting the memory of Hitler. And some people will get mad at me for saying hurting the memory of Hitler. Have your feelings, folks. I don't really care. Don't have time to argue, and technically don't even have time to go into this anymore. So I'm just going to tell you, anybody that gives you bad advice, whether it's financial advice or advice with your voting, don't listen to those people. And those people, maybe they're not fully evil, but they're definitely having an evil moment. Take it from me. Don't think about anything else. Don't do any research. Just listen to what I'm saying. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.